Viewers will know we often feature some of the worthier biotech companies out there, you know, the ones trying to cure cancer and save the world. One of those we heard from about a year ago, I think it was, called a company called Viralytics. They now have a new chairman who happens to live in LA. Why, you ask? He's going to tell us what else he does there for Aussie companies. Mr. Paul Hopper, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Now, I did spend some time, I did get a fellowship to Stanford University. In fact, I mentioned at the drop of a hat here. And I remember the complaint there. I mean, that was the centre of a lot of new technology, whatever. Constant complaint of the Australians I met was how hard it was to get them funding. Most of them tended to move over there. How hard is it these days?
It's still very hard, particularly if your market cap is sub 100 or even $50 million, because a lot of institutional funds over there have size limits that they just simply can't buy. The other issue for a lot of the small companies, and certainly with the biotechs, is the turnover in the stock, because if I put $2 or $3 million into your company and I want to get out, and you trade $10,000 or $20,000 a day, I'm there forever. So we just don't invest.
OK, tell us about the major revelations that happened, being on the ground, living over there, that you learnt that we, you know, like, oh my goodness, that is not what I expected, or what are the main things that came as a shock to you that you learnt?
Well, culturally, there's a lot of things that are very different from... I hear in Australia quite a bit that we're very American.
Grow your hair and it's okay.
Your hair. We're very American, but we're not actually. I mean, our humour, the use of irony...
Oh, they don't
get it. I mean, the Australian way of taking the...
Mickey.
Yeah,
you can't say the other word, but we'll go
taking
Mickey, I'll save
out,
it.
Self-deprecation, they have no concept of that. In terms of business, I think the thing that strikes you very quickly when you get there is that they have a different approach initially when they see something. It's very positive. It's how can we make it work, what's good about it, and then they get to what's wrong with it. When I used to live here, it was the opposite.
True.
You do your best to trash it first, and then you work out afterwards why it might work. And that's quite a different mindset.
OK, and I love that about the Americans. It is that positiveness. Let's go through a few things. What are the major mistakes you see Australians make who come over and come through your door?
Look, I think they underestimate how sophisticated the market is. There's little things like when they do their presentations.
Don't they do their homework? Don't they know it's America, it's the West Coast, it's the home of all this?
Well, you know, one of the reasons we started the Australia desk is because people think the West Coast is the place where you drop in to see Disneyland, you go to Rodeo Drive, you go down to Knott's Berry Farm or something. You know, California is the 7th largest economy in the world, and the biggest city in that economy is LA. It's 10 million plus people. It's a huge economy. So we're trying to get people to realise that there is money, there's business, and there's investors there. You don't have to go to New York and to Boston in order to raise money, which is one of the reasons the desk is there, and also the Cappello Investment Conference, which I started.
So apart from maybe not doing their homework or being a bit naive, perhaps, about LA, what other things do they do wrong? Maybe the humour, we've got that. They might have to temper their humour a bit. What else do they do? I
think there's silly little things they, you know, when they do presentations, they often forget to convert currency or imperial measures. It's, you know, ounces and pounds and all that sort of thing, which sort of annoy me.
It's hard to believe the Americans aren't metric, isn't it?
Yeah. In my business, where I have a lot of investors coming in, they often forget to deal with the obvious problems in their business. They don't address them. So, you know, when you go to a fund manager in New York or LA, you sit outside, someone takes you in and offers you a coffee, then the fund manager, you know, he's looking at his watch, and he sits down and you talk about the weather for a moment and you get started. And the first thing he's looking for is a reason to say no. And he focuses in on the problem in the deal, and they've not done their homework on it. So it gets hijacked for 20 minutes and they're on the back foot talking about how to salvage it when they should be talking about the good things about the transaction.
OK, before we move on to other things, like giving value to my viewers here, what would be your top tip to somebody who was looking to go to the US, who's frustrated here, thinks the US, California, golden state?
Yeah. Well, I would tell them to come to the Cappello Australia desk.
No more ads. You've had enough ads, but just in general.
I think know your market extremely well. Again, if I could use the biotech industry, when I take people out, let's say someone has got a drug in ovarian cancer, I will say to them, when you go in front of a fund, you're going to be sitting in front of a PhD that probably did research for 10 years after they left university, then they work for Big Pharma, and now they're a VC or a specialist fund manager. They're going to eat you alive. They know your sector so well, and you need to be very prepared.
Only the fittest will survive. Taking it a step further, you're also involved with we've all heard of G'day LA, the Hollywood side. You're setting up an Australian investment conference in January. Just give us a quick, I'll give you one plug for that, then we'll go into Viralytics.
Okay. Well, it's to do with this view that I have and a lot of people in LA share, that Australians think that LA is about entertainment, and there's more to it than that. So in January this year, as part of the Australian government's G'day USA program, which is essentially a week of intense promotion of Australian business.
10th anniversary this year, I should mention.
Yeah, you should come. We decided that we should hold a US-Australia-focused investor conference, and this year we brought 31 companies over for a day conference. They got a half-an-hour pitch. We had biotech, mining, technology, a whole raft of industries.
Good idea, because in the time I worked in New York, they often do, brokers had those in New York, but you probably haven't done them in LA. And good to time it with G'day LA when you've got a lot of people there.
Exactly.
Good for you. Now we'll wear your other hat. You were recently appointed chairman of Viralytics, as I said, a company we've had on using viruses to help fight cancer in the second stage, I think stage 2 of FDA.
Phase 2, clinical trials.
I can see why they've got you over there on it. Now, I wasn't aware, but they were in a trading halt because you're raising money. I'm not usually one to push companies that are raising money. So without going on a spruik for the money raising, just tell us your involvement, why new chairman, where Viralytics is going. So when you get money, if you do.
Well, we're in a transition between the previous CEO and a new CEO who have just appointed, so he hasn't come on board. So in fact, I've become the executive chairman, so I'm running the business at the moment. So I'm down here seeing investors and brokers.
Just tell us about the transition. That's because obviously as it goes to phase 2 and the focus is more US, that's what everything you were saying before about the importance?
Correct. So we're raising money to, clinical trials are expensive. We're in a phase 2. If you recall, developing a drug is linear. You do phase 1, phase 2, you go into phase 3, and if phase 3 you show what you set out to do, then the FDA will give you approval to sell the drug. So we're in phase 2 now, and we wish to expand those phase 2 trials, which is the
Americans like Viralytics? What's it got that all those other biotech companies that inundate me every day don't have? I mean, apart from the fact you're going to cure cancer and you're on this virus.
Right. Well, there's only 2 publicly traded companies in the world that are using viruses to kill cancer. One of them is in Canada, and its market cap is 170 million. And the other one is Viralytics, and our market cap is 30 million. So,
a lot of potential there for it. Thank you very much. Very interesting to talk to you, and good luck in LA.
Thank you, Janine.
Not sure about the hair, but I like your confidence in it and to acclimatise with the locals. I think It's a good idea. At least you haven't got a ponytail.
No.
That's good. Well, that's what you missed last week on the Perrett Report. Don't let it happen again, will you? So we're agreed then, Monday 6:30 on Sky News Business? Or, OK, if you do miss it again, you have another chance at 9:30. Expect to see you then.